Welcome to this week's edition of the Coach's Corner. I'm Wes McKinney. I'm here with Coach Kent McBride of the men's basketball team. Coach, what does it mean to have the first winning season in the program since 2008?
It means a lot. It means a lot to me in my first season here to be able to have a winning record, and I think more so it means a lot to the seniors. Corey Willard in particular, who's been a 4-year player, that in his time here he hasn't had a winning season yet, and we've secured that regardless of what happens from here on out. So it means a lot to the program, and hopefully it's step one of the building blocks that we can continue with the program.
Now, there was a lot of exciting moments this season. Is there one that kind of stands out to you?
Let's see, exciting moments. You know, the one that stands out is the first game. You know, we stepped in here in my first coaching game against West Virginia Tech, and we were a little undermanned. And just the effort we played with, and I know all the players, they remember Damian Tunstall's dunk in overtime that really excited the team. Even though we came up on the wrong end of that game, I think what it is, it set the tone for the effort and the enthusiasm that we were going to play with for the year, and it continued up until now.
Now, even though the season isn't over, what was the overall impression on how the season went?
And I was pleased. It'd be selfish of me to say that I would expect more. We always want more as coaches. We have 26 games. We want to win all 26, but unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. But the progress is what I look at. Are we a better team now than we were when we started in November, even in December? And I think we have hit our peak. I think we're peaking at the right time. So the progress is what I look at as a coach on how have we came throughout the season, through practices and through games, and where we're at now. I'm very comfortable. You know, we've won 5 out of our last 6, hitting the tournament play. So I feel pretty good, and I think the guys and the players feel pretty good. So it'd be selfish of me to say I wasn't pleased with where we are.
Now, you mentioned that you guys had won 5 out of 6, but early in the season you guys started 3-3 and then won 4 of your next 5. Was that kind of a turning point in the season?
I don't not necessarily think it was a turning point. You know, we started out 3-3, but if you look back at our schedule on who we played there at the beginning of the year, we didn't get necessarily a favorable schedule. But we just kept working, and we knew we'd eventually turn the corner. And there in late December and early December, right before the semester break, is when we hit a little bit of a stride, and you feel good going into Christmas break, and that kind of propelled us into second semester. And I think more than anything, it changed the guys' mindset on what our expectations of ourselves were, and we expect to win every game. Instead of hoping to win, we started expecting to win.
Okay, and even though it was a loss, what was the atmosphere like playing in front of the huge crowd against West Lib?
It was great. You know, when I played here for 4 years, from 02 to 06, we never had a crowd of that nature, of that magnitude, that boisterous. And, you know, we came up on the wrong end of it. You know, 5-point loss. It was down to the end with the number 2 team in the country at the time. So as coaches, we're not into moral victories, and we still wanted to win the game. But the crowd and the atmosphere, and one thing I think it did was the community that came out to support us, they kind of saw, okay, well, this is a very good basketball team. And since then, our crowd has been a lot better because they see that, you know, on top of the winning season, our record, and how we fared against West Liberty in our own gym, and the excitement in the gym, I think it's given the community a lot of momentum, and it's carried into better crowds and better atmosphere since the seasons went on.
Okay, now I've been to a few practices. Like, talk about those practices. Like, just talk about the toughness of them.
Yeah, you know, you try to get as much as you can out of practice, especially this time of year. You can't really beat them to death because we played 26 games, and you're trying to save bodies and make sure you don't have an injury. But early in the season, the practice was really physical, really long. You know, that was kind of a big adjustment for this year for these guys. That 2.5 hour practices are going to be a norm. They've been, you know, and we demand a lot from our guys. We try to make sure that they understand you can't take any time off in practice. You know, you want practice. I was just sitting talking to Coach Garrett. You want practices to be harder than your games, and that's kind of what we tried to do. And I think the guys, it took them about 2 weeks to realize that, but since then they've been good.
Okay, earlier in the month, you guys had like a 3-game losing streak, and then you guys went to Philippi to take on a really good AB team. What was the message going into that game?
Well, you know, when you look at the turning point of this season, that day if you ask all my players, they understand that February 5th was the day that I think our program turned the corner. We had just came off of, it was our 3rd straight loss up at Shepherd, and it was one where it was just lifeless effort. We really just didn't bring any sort of effort. And I think the guys walked away embarrassed of the performance they put on, and sometimes that's needed. and we stepped in here, and you mentioned the practices on February 5th, and normally a pregame practice is you do a lot of walkthrough, you do a lot of talking, a lot of scouting. Well, we didn't do any of that. We used the basketballs, we did a lot of body-on-body contact, and we had a very physical practice. And we knew going into Alderson Broaddus that if you don't play physical, they're going to physically beat you down for 40 minutes. And even when we started the game up there, the guys didn't really expect it. They still beat us down early, and to win the way we won was probably the best thing for us, to be down early in the second half as much as 13, and to come back and we kind of won it running away. That seemed to be the turning point of our team. And that's the first time that I think Concord has won at Alderson Broaddus in about 15, 16 years up at AB. So since then, I think we've really turned the corner, and that was kind of the defining moment.
Now, last year, you guys had a very bad road record, and this year you guys went 7-6 on the road. How were the players able to play better away from the Carter Center this year?
I think it attributes to how we practiced. I think last year, if I look back, I think they were 3-12 or 3-11 on the road, something of that nature, and we're 7-6 this year. Not where we want to be, but it is an improvement. And I think you attribute that to the practices we have day in and day out. And you can't really simulate a road atmosphere, a road game. You're traveling, you're not at home, sometimes you're not sleeping in your own bed. But what we try to do is mentally test these guys every day in practice, to where when the chips aren't falling your way, especially on the road, the team has to come together, because you're not going to have many fans, and that's when you as a collective team have to come together and pull through. And I think our practices are a big contributor to the reason our road record has drastically improved.
How do you get all the players to buy into their roles on the team?
One thing that you look at the old Bob Huggins adage, in a game, if you don't buy into your role, you're going to sit beside the assistant coaches and myself. And what it did is, especially in the first game, the effort that everybody played with, and they understand that what keeps them on the court. And if you don't give maximum effort, and certain guys are scorers, and certain guys are rebounders, and certain guys are distributors, and the success we had early in the year helps guys fall into their roles, because they see what it takes to win. When they see, okay, that's my role, and we win the game, they're okay with that, because one thing I am blessed with, out of those 12 guys, all 12 of their number one goal is to win the game, regardless if they play 2 minutes or 40 minutes. So, I've been fortunate. We haven't had any issues with guys wanting to expand their role. They are okay with where they are. They trust in the coaching staff that's what I was hired for, is to put guys in their roles, and these guys have accepted it, and then the product has been better.
Okay, on Tuesday night, you guys start conference tournaments. You guys draw Ohio Valley. You guys also split both regular seasons meeting with them. What did you take away from each game?
The game when we played at Ohio Valley, it was kind of a weird game for us. We didn't make any shots early in the game. We got down to a big halftime decimal, I think it was 15, and we eventually pulled back even, but we fought uphill the whole game. I think we just exhausted our energy getting back into the game, and in the last 3 minutes, we had kind of ran out of gas, and Ohio Valley ended up making plays and pulling it out. They're very good in their own building. And then down here a couple weeks ago, we played them on a Saturday, and I thought we were okay. We did. It was one of those games where it was kind of, we did just enough to win. We had a chance early in the second half to really put them away, and we didn't do it. And a lot of that's attributed to Ohio Valley. They got a very good guard, and they've got very good post players. So it's going to be a tough test on Tuesday. I know we're the 6th seed and they're the 11th seed, but that really doesn't mean anything. We're both 0-0. We've just got one game to move on. And I don't think the excitement is something I need to worry about with our guys. I think they're ready to play, but the execution is what you worry about. So it'll be fun, and Ohio Valley's going to test us.
Okay, talk about Mike Boyd. He's the only freshman in the starting lineup. How has he adjusted from the high school level to being a starting point guard at a college like this?
It's kind of amazing to me that he's done that. You look at all of the different starting lineups that we've had. He's been the one fixture that really hasn't changed, and to be a freshman in that role, it says a lot about him. It says a lot about where he came from. He came from a very good high school program he was very challenged, and when he stepped in the building, we all thought that, okay, this guy could turn into being our starting point guard. But when you have a freshman step in, not only do they have to prove it to the coaches, but they have to prove it to their teammates that they believe in him as a true freshman to step in and start the game. So we tried to bring him along slowly, but to give him credit, it didn't take long for him to show his teammates that spot belonged to him, and he's relished at it. He's done a great job, and he's a very good calming factor on our team. And when when things start going a little haywire, which happens in games, he always seems to calm us down. And as a true freshman, he's done a phenomenal job. And I don't know what our record would be without him, but I'm sure glad we have him.
Okay, now talk about Gentry Shrewsbury. Might be a little undersized to play the forward position, but he always seems to have like a really good knowledge of how the game's going. I just talk about his awareness on the floor.
Yeah, Gentry is unbelievably undersized. He's 6 foot. We probably say 6'3", 190 pounds down there, and he battles with the biggest guys he can. He never shies away from a challenge. Gentry is a testament to show you that he doesn't necessarily have overwhelming ability. He doesn't have overwhelming talent, but he does have overwhelming knowledge and awareness on the court, and that's where he beats you. He's successful. He finds ways to be successful regardless of his size. I've watched him through high school. He's done it forever. And he's another one kind of you look at along with Mike Boyd, when he's in the game, things seem to go right. Whether it's him taking a charge, whether it's him getting a rebound, he's always covering for a teammate. He's found a knack and a way to play to make himself successful. And we're fortunate to have him, and I look forward to having him for one more year.
Okay, what are the roles of the assistant coaches on the team?
Obviously in daily practice, you put Coach Johnson in charge of working with our post players. Cordell Boyd has done a lot with our guards. One thing as a head coach that you try to do sometimes in practice is we try to take a step back. They hear me talk all the time. So you try to step back and say, okay, let these two assistant coaches talk, because if I'm constantly talking, it just eventually falls on deaf ears. And then they've been out on the road recruiting, trying to find new Concord Mountain Lions. So they've taken on a lot of role. Cordell does all the film that we have, our uploading and downloading film and editing film. So they do a lot within the program. And with practice, those guys have really stepped up. And it's been an adjustment for Will and Cordell as well, because the things that I've brought necessarily aren't the same that they've done for years. So it's been a learning process for them, but they've done very well, and I'm fortunate to have them. Okay,
and I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but you've gone with several different starting lineups this year. How's that kind of affected the team chemistry?
One thing, the chemistry's fine. Our locker room, we have a very good locker room in terms of guys getting along. I'm very blessed in that fashion. One thing it does, I think, that the fact that you change starting lineups is we don't, as coaches, just change the starting lineup just to change them. There's always the method behind the madness. And before we change the starting lineup, we'll show them, here's why we're doing it. This player did this or this player did not do that. And one thing that is done is the players understand that if they don't produce, then their playing time is going to be reduced. And if the guy behind you is playing better than you, then we have to reward that. So it hasn't messed with team chemistry one bit. I think what it does is it makes our guys focus more, and they've all understood that at times when they've been benched, everybody's been through it, they've understood why, and they've accepted it. They don't let it affect anything and how they play. They just step out and play whenever their time's called. They understand that if they want to continue to play, then they'll produce.
All righty, Coach. Thanks for sitting down today, and congrats on a very good regular season, and best of luck against Ohio Valley tomorrow night.
Appreciate it.
That's all for this edition of the Coach's Corner. I'm Wes McKinney.